The little tornado in the pink Lotso Bear onesie was butt in the air, one arm buried deep under the sofa. With a grunt that summoned all her toddler strength, she dragged out a single, questionable-looking men's sock. She held it over her head like a trophy and yelled in her squeaky little voice at the woman who was vibrating on the edge of a full-blown meltdown. "Mommy, I found Daddy's secret money stash." 3 seconds of dead silence. My daughter, Chloe, blinked her big eyes, completely oblivious to the fact that she'd just sold her old man down the river. She was still beaming, clearly expecting a parade in her honor. But what she was clutching in her chubby fist wasn't money. It was a small, hot pink card that read, "The Velvet Lounge, Platinum VIP." I could practically watch the color drain from my wife's face, going from crimson to storm cloud gray, then settling on the color of burnt charcoal. "Ethan Miller." A theatrical snore echoed from the bedroom, followed by my disheveled head poking out from behind the door. I looked from my furious wife to my clueless daughter, a picture of pure confusion. I scratched my bedhead and yawned. "Honey, why are you holding my lucky sock?" The sound of a key turning in the front door lock was as sharp and final as a bullet being chambered. I was sitting on the rug, a half-eaten barbecue chicken leg in my hand, my face slick with grease. Across from me, my daughter, Chloe, mirrored my posture perfectly, her own chicken leg held aloft, her little feet swinging in the air. The door opened. Jessica stood in the doorway, still in her heels. She was clutching her phone, the screen's cold light illuminating a face completely devoid of expression. It was giving me serious horror movie vibes, like the ghost girl crawling out of the TV to collect your soul. "Eating." Her voice was quiet, but it sent a chill down my spine. I swallowed the mouthful of chicken, grabbed a napkin, and wiped Chloe's mouth first before plastering a grin on my own face. "Hey, you're home. You gotta try this chicken. The new sauce is insane. I saved the biggest piece for you. Go wash up." Jessica didn't move. She dropped her purse on the entryway table with a heavy thud. Chloe flinched, nearly dropping her chicken. The little survivor instincts kicked in instantly. She shoved the whole thing in her mouth and mumbled, "Mommy, Daddy said you were working late for sure and told me to eat fast, so we wouldn't have to save you any." My eyes bulged. Was this my own flesh and blood, or a tiny sleeper agent sent by my enemies? "Oh, is that right?" Jessica stalked over, looming above me. She had the same look she gives the slimy leftovers she finds in the back of the fridge. "Ethan Miller, living the good life, are we?" I quickly crossed my legs into a pretzel, trying to look as harmless as possible. "What? No way. Taking care of a kid is exhausting. Just, replenishing my protein." I shifted gears. "You look a little stressed, babe. Was it your boss, that bald guy, giving you a hard time again? I'll go slash his tires tomorrow." Jessica shoved her phone in my face. $250. 3 p.m. today. Venmo note. "Thanks, babe. You worked hard." She stared daggers at me. "Explain." "Which babe? How hard did she work?" "Hard enough for my stay-at-home husband to Venmo her $250. I glanced at the screen. Crap. It was the payment for my game booster. The kid had been grinding dungeons for a week straight to finally get me the Blade of Ruin. The kid's gamer tag was Omega Dino Slayer. It was a mouthful, so when I sent the payment, I just typed babe on autopilot. It was a total brain fart, probably autocorrect's fault. But telling the truth now was a death sentence. Jessica despises it when I spend money on games. The last time she caught me buying character skin, I had to kneel on a TV remote for half an hour. The kind with all the pointy buttons. Well, my mind raced, my eyes darting around until they landed on Chloe, who was now meticulously licking her fingers. I yanked my daughter into a hug, my face a perfect mask of innocence. "It's for Chloe's new enrichment class." "Yeah, an after-school program. The teacher, her name is Miss Honey. That's what all the early education teachers call themselves these days. To be friendly." Jessica crossed her arms, a cold smile playing on her lips. "An enrichment class? What's she learning?" "Advanced chicken wing demolition." Hearing her name, Chloe perked up instantly, raising a greasy hand. "Mommy, I want to learn to be Iron Man. Daddy said he'd buy me a suit." I slapped my hand over her mouth. "Kids say the darndest things, right?" I chuckled nervously, scooting back to create a safe distance. "Babe, why don't you go change? You got that office smell all over you. Let's just relax at home. Don't get worked up over a little money, It's bad for our relationship. Jessica took a deep, deliberate breath. It was the loading bar before the final boss explosion. Ethan Miller, get up. She pointed to the corner of the room. Go. Face the wall. And you're not getting back in our bed until you come up with a believable explanation. I sighed, patting the dust off my jeans as I slowly got to my feet. See that, Chloe? I looked down and gave my daughter a real-time life lesson. That's the price of marriage. When you grow up, don't ever marry a guy like your dad. It's a life of humiliation. Chloe nodded with a wisdom beyond her years, then handed me the gnawed-on bone from her chicken leg. You go to timeout, Daddy. I'll throw the bone away for you. I stared at the heartless little creature, a cold chill washing over me. Walking to the corner, I expertly rested my forehead against the wallpaper. This particular spot was getting a little shiny from overuse. Jessica sat on the sofa, legs crossed, radiating pure power. All right, let's hear it. Who is Babe? I closed my eyes, running the calculations. The truth meant immediate execution. Continuing the lie was probably a stay of execution, but execution nonetheless. If I was going to die, I might as well go out with a bang. I spun around, my face a mask of grave seriousness. Jess, since you found out, I won't hide it anymore. The truth is, she's my long-lost sister. The air froze. Jessica looked at me like I'd just sprouted a second head. Her mouth twitched, clearly stunned by the sheer, intergalactic stupidity of my excuse. Your sister, she repeated, her voice deceptively calm. Ethan, have you been watching too many daytime soap operas? Or do you think I have rocks in my head? You're an only child. Your mother never even had a second cat. Where would a sister come from? My face contorted in pain. My inner actor was going for an Oscar. It's a tragic story from the previous generation. I never wanted to tell you. I didn't want you to worry. Keep going. Keep digging that hole. Jessica grabbed a throw pillow and started squeezing it, the fabric groaning in protest. Let's see what other garbage you can come up with. Just then, Chloe scrambled up from the rug, raised her greasy little hands, and planted herself between me and Jessica. Don't bully my daddy. A warmth spread through my chest. I was moved to tears. See? This is my real daughter. When the chips are down, she's got my back. Chloe struck a pose from one of her cartoons and yelled, "Take this, monster!" Repulsor blast. Pew 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 pew. She aimed her wiggling fingers at Jessica, providing her own sound effects. Jessica's face went black. Chloe Miller, who are you calling a monster? She asked, her eyes narrowing to dangerous slits. Chloe immediately lost her nerve. She lowered her hands, turned to me, and said with a shrug, Daddy, the monster's defense is too high. I'm out of mana. You're on your own. And with that, the little traitor scurried behind the sofa, peeking out with just her eyes to watch the carnage. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this sudden, brutal betrayal. Jessica tossed the pillow back on the sofa and started walking toward me. She was wearing a white blouse, sleeves rolled to the elbows, which usually made her look powerful and competent. Right now, all that power was aimed directly at crushing me. Phone! Now! She held out her hand. I instinctively clutched my pocket. Jess, come on. That's not necessary. The most important thing in a marriage is trust. Look at my face. It's written all over with loyalty. Cut the crap, she said, impatiently wiggling her fingers. You have 3 seconds. I knew I was defeated. Jessica was an accountant. She had a religious devotion to data and evidence. Any more resistance, and I wouldn't even get the chance to sleep on the couch. I'd be sleeping in the hallway. Slowly, I took out my phone, unlocked it, and handed it over. Jessica snatched it and, with practiced ease, opened my messenger, found a contact named Babe, and tapped into the chat history. I held my breath, my heart hammering against my ribs. I hadn't cheated, but that game booster. He had a certain flamboyant way with words. Sure enough, Jessica's brow furrowed as she scanned the screen, her expression finally breaking into a humorless, angry laugh. She turned the phone to me, pointing at a voice message. Here, explain this. What exactly does "you're amazing"? Let's do another round mean? My head buzzed. That was from last night when we finally beat the final boss. That pervert sent it in a fit of excitement. He was a guy using a voice changer. I swallowed hard. That's gaming lingo. Yeah, gaming lingo. It means my technique was on point, and our teamwork was flawless. Man or woman? Jessica stared, trying to burn a hole through my skull. 100% a man. I raised my hand as if swearing an oath. Total dude. Hairy legs, the whole deal. Jessica sneered. A man calls you amazing? In that voice. Ethan, your tastes have gotten interesting. I was speechless. Who knew hiring a game booster these days was so fraught with peril? At this critical juncture, Chloe's head popped up from behind the sofa again. She was holding my tablet, which was playing a replay of the game stream I'd been watching last night. Mommy, look. Chloe pointed at the screen. That man on the screen talks, just like the person on the phone, and he's really, really big. Jessica paused, then leaned over to look. On the screen, a 300-pound man in a gaming chair was speaking into a microphone in a ridiculously high-pitched voice. Shout out to Ethan M. for the massive gift. You're amazing, my dude. Jessica's expression froze solid. She looked from the giant man on the screen to me, and a murderous rage in her eyes slowly faded, replaced by an expression of profound disgust. Ethan Miller. She tossed my phone back at me, looking nauseated. Next time you play games, could you please find some normal people to play with? That was deeply disturbing to watch. I caught my phone, letting out a long sigh of relief. I survived. Thank you, giant man. Thank you, my daughter. Thank you, internet. But before I could celebrate, Jessica's tone shifted. However, the $250 is a fact. Seems you have quite the secret stash, huh? Hand it over. The smile froze on my face. How much? I asked tentatively. All of it. Jessica held out her hand. Venmo, PayPal, your bank card, and she pointed under the sofa. The cash Chloe found in that sock. I looked at Chloe in despair. The little traitor was hugging the tablet, mimicking the man on the screen in a squeaky voice. You're amazing, my dude. My life was officially ruined by the two women in this house. After surrendering my entire secret stash, I felt hollowed out. That was 6 months of savings for a new graphics card. Now I couldn't even afford a cooling fan for my old one. Jessica, holding my phone, happily transferred my funds to her own account, then patted me on the shoulder. Good boy. You can have an extra dinner roll tonight. That was just a twist of the knife. Watching her smug face, a sudden surge of masculine pride welled up inside me. No, I couldn't let it in like this. I had to re-establish my position in this family. Jessica, you've gone too far. I shot to my feet, my voice an octave higher. This is unbearable. I'm leaving. I'm running away from home. Jessica was taking off her makeup. Without even turning from the mirror, she said, Okay, remember to take your key. I'm not opening the door if you come back late. Her attitude was so dismissive, so disrespectful to a man on the brink of walking out on his family. I'm serious this time. I stormed into the bedroom, threw open the closet, and started stuffing random clothes into a backpack. Then I added my beloved mechanical keyboard and gaming controller. My sacred relics. They had to come with me. Chloe trotted in, hugging her Lotso bear. She looked up at me. Daddy, are you going to be a hobo? Like in the old cartoons? Yes. I nodded tragically. Daddy is going in search of freedom, in search of a man's dignity. But where will you sleep tonight? Chloe blinked. I froze. That was a problem. My wallet was cleaner than my conscience right now. A hotel was out. My parents' house would result in a tag team lecture of epic proportions. The world is my oyster. I'll sleep wherever the wind takes me. I said, trying to sound profound. I slung the bag over my shoulder and marched out of the bedroom. As I passed the bathroom, I slowed down, glancing at Jessica out of the corner of my eye. She was putting on a face mask and didn't even spare me a look. I'm leaving, I yelled. Take the trash out on your way, she mumbled through the mask. I nearly had a heart attack from pure rage. I snatched the garbage bag by the door, yanked the door open, and walked out. Slam! I shut the front door with a thunderous bang. Standing in the hallway, the cool draft hit me, and I suddenly felt a bit foolish. I was wearing slippers, a pilled cotton pajama set, a bulging backpack, and I was holding a bag of kitchen garbage. This wasn't the look of a rugged man running away. It was the look of a homeless guy taking out the trash. The elevator doors opened, and my neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, walked out with her poodle. She saw me and blinked. Oh, Ethan, did Jessica kick you out? No, of course not. I immediately stood up straighter. I'm going out for some fresh air, to find inspiration. Mrs. Peterson glanced at the garbage bag in my hand, gave me an I understand completely smile, and walked away. I sighed and tossed the garbage down the chute. Now what? It was too cold to wander around outside, and going back inside would be a total loss of face. My eyes darted to the door directly across the hall from ours, the door to the spare bedroom. That's right. Our apartment was originally two separate units that had been combined, but we kept both front doors. Jessica had sealed off the connecting doorway from the inside, considering it a hassle. But I had secretly kept a key to the second front door. My secret base. I tiptoed over, pulled out the key, and quietly opened the door. This was just the guest room, connected to our living room by a lockable sliding door. I stepped inside, locked the front door behind me, tossed my bag on the bed, and flopped down with a sigh of relief. Humph. Even running away requires strategy, I muttered, pulling out my phone and connecting to our home Wi-Fi. When the enemy advances, I retreat. I'd been lying there for less than 2 minutes when I heard a faint scratching at the sliding door. "Daddy," Chloe whispered. "Are you in there?" A grin spread across my face. I crept over to the door. "Chloe, it's me. What's the situation out there?" Mommy finished her face mask. "She's watching TV now," Chloe reported, "and she ate a whole bag of chips and didn't give me any." "That monster!" I seethed. "Hey kiddo, want a snack?" "Yes." "Okay, go to the top kitchen cabinet, find that box of imported chocolates she thinks she has hidden, and bring it here. We'll split it." "Roger that." Hearing Chloe's little feet patter away, I smiled triumphantly. "You cut off my supply lines, Jessica, so don't blame me for raiding yours." A moment later, a piece of chocolate was pushed under the door. As I reached for it, Chloe's voice came through again. "Daddy, Mommy wants to know if the heat is on in the guest room. She said, don't freeze to death in there, because then there'll be no one to take me to school tomorrow." My hand froze halfway to the chocolate. So my perfect plan to run away from home. She had seen through it from the very beginning. I angrily tore open the wrapper and took a huge bite. "You tell your mother this is a strategic retreat. And after I finish this chocolate, I'm going to sleep." Oof. I woke up with an aching back. The mattress in the guest room was too soft for a man whose spine had been shaped by years in a gaming chair. I was woken up by the sound of my own stomach growling. 2 chicken legs and a piece of chocolate for dinner had not been enough. I pressed my ear to the sliding door. It was quiet outside. Jessica was probably still asleep. On weekends, she wouldn't get up before 10, come hell or high water. My chance. I slid the door open and tiptoed into the living room like a thief. The place was a disaster zone. Chloe's toys were scattered everywhere, and a pile of Jessica's clothes from last night was heaped on the sofa. Looking at the mess, I sighed. Without me, the quality of life for these two dropped dramatically. I made a beeline for the kitchen to find something to eat. I opened the fridge. It was even emptier than my wallet. Aside from a few sad-looking stalks of bok choy, all that was left was half a package of instant ramen. "Daddy!" A tiny voice from behind me made me jump, nearly sending the ramen flying. I turned to see Chloe standing in the kitchen doorway, hugging her Lotso bear. Her hair was sticking up in every direction like a mad scientist's as she rubbed her eyes. "I am hungry." "Sure." I put a finger to my lips. "Don't wake the sleeping dragon." Chloe nodded, pattered over in her bare feet, and hugged my leg. "Daddy, I want pancakes." "No eggs," I said, showed her my empty hands. "Only ramen. We'll have to make do." I put a pot on the stove and turned on the water. Chloe dragged a small stool over to the counter, insisting on helping. "I'm a little chef," she declared, waving a spatula excitedly. Yes, you're Gordon Ramsay in training," I said, dropping the noodles into the pot. "Just watch the flame, don't singe your eyebrows." Just then, I remembered a bottle of expired. No, almost expired, sriracha hidden deep in one of the cabinets. The soul of instant ramen. I turned to rummage through the cabinet. "Daddy, the water's making bubbles." Chloe yelled. "That's called boiling. It's fine," I said without looking back. "Daddy, white foam is coming out." "That's just starch. It's normal." "Daddy, the fire got bigger." "A bigger fire cooks faster." I hadn't even finished the sentence when I smelled something burning. I whipped around. Holy crap. The water had boiled over, spilling onto the gas burner and sending flames shooting up, nearly setting Chloe's bangs on fire. Whoa! I lunged forward, snatching up my daughter with one arm and shutting off the gas with the other. But my sudden movement knocked over the spice rack next to the stove. Soy sauce, vinegar, sesame oil, and salt shakers crashed to the floor in a loud, chaotic symphony of shattering glass. What's going on? Is it an earthquake? Jessica, hair wild and brandishing a slipper like a weapon, burst into the kitchen, ready for battle. She froze when she saw the carnage. The floor was a slick, black mess of mixed condiments. I stood in the middle of it, holding Chloe, while black smoke billowed from the pot, a few sad noodles clinging to the rim for dear life. Ethan, Miller. Jessica's roar nearly shook the range hood off the wall. Are you trying to blow up my kitchen? I swallowed hard and held Chloe out in front of me like a shield. Jess, let me explain. No, wait, it was Chloe. She said she wanted to make you a special breakfast. I tried to stop her. The kid's heart is in the right place, but her execution needs work. Chloe's eyes went wide. She was clearly stunned that her own father could be so shamelessly dishonorable. But the kid was a quick thinker. Her eyes darted around, and then she squeezed out 2 fat tears, looking pitifully at Jessica. Mommy, I'm sorry. I just wanted you to have a yummy breakfast. Jessica's slipper was frozen midair, unsure whether to strike. Finally, with a long, weary sigh, she dropped the slipper, came over, and took the child from my arms. She shot me a glare. Clean this up. If I find so much as a single sticky spot, I'll skin you alive. I felt like I'd been granted a presidential pardon. You got it. Mission accepted. Hey, that ramen might not look great, but I bet it still tastes. Okay, want to try some while it's hot? Jessica glanced at the black sludge in the pot, made a gagging sound, and walked out without another word, holding Chloe close. As I knelt on the floor, wiping up soy sauce, I couldn't help but think. This family would fall apart without me. The kitchen crisis was temporarily averted with a bowl of takeout chicken noodle soup, which managed to quell Jessica's morning rage. But the atmosphere in the apartment was still tense. Jessica sat on the sofa, sipping her soup, studying me with a look of intense scrutiny. It was like an X-ray, trying to see past my skin and into the heart where all my little secrets were hidden. Ethan Miller, she said suddenly. I was peeling a hard-boiled egg for Chloe. My hand jerked, and the egg fell to the floor. Chloe, with lightning-fast reflexes, snatched it up, blew on it, and popped it in her mouth, a firm believer in the 5-second rule. What is it? I asked, my guilt flaring up. Had she found a $20 bill I'd hidden inside my pillowcase? What's with that package? Jessica pointed to a large box by the door. It had been delivered this morning. The sender's name was listed as Sweetheart Baby. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. That damn seller. I had told him 100 times to ship it anonymously. Anonymously? And what did he do? He printed his cutesy shop name right on the label. Oh, that, I stammered. That's a toy for Chloe. A toy. Jessica put down her spoon and walked over to the box. Sweetheart Baby? Doesn't sound like a place that sells Legos. Sound more like a place that sells adult novelties. My face flushed. I swear on all that is holy, it wasn't an adult novelty. Babe, can you try to be a little less cynical? I tried to turn it around on her. Am I that kind of guy? Besides, even if I were to buy something like that, who else would I use it with but you? Jessica's cheeks turned a faint pink. She shot me a look. Just open it. You really want me to? I hesitated. Open it. Defeated, I found a pair of scissors and sliced through the packing tape. The box was open. Inside, there was nothing X-rated, just a weirdly shaped, large pink cushion covered in an array of protruding little spheres. I had to admit, it did look a bit like some kind of kinky device. Jessica's expression shifted. Ethan Miller, she said through gritted teeth. And you said you weren't a pervert? What is this thing? Chloe trotted over and poked the cushion curiously. Daddy, is this for sitting on? It's so squishy. I took a deep breath, pulled the cushion out, and plugged it in. Bim! The cushion began to vibrate, and the little spheres started to rotate. This is an intelligent, heated shiatsu massage cushion, I announced proudly. The latest model, specially designed to treat lower back pain and soreness from sitting all day. It also has a heating function to warm your soul. Jessica was stunned. As an accountant, she spent all day sitting in an office chair, and her back and neck were always giving her trouble. A few nights ago, she'd casually complained about her back hurting as she was falling asleep, and I had quietly made a mental note. This cushion was why I'd been saving up my secret stash, why I'd hired that weirdo booster to grind for gear I could sell. You bought it for me. Jessica's voice suddenly softened, her aggressive posture deflating in an instant. Who else? I placed the cushion on the sofa and patted it. Come on, try it out. I did a ton of research on this. The shop's name is a little weird, I'll grant you, but the product is legit. Jessica walked over and sat down. Comfortable? I asked, crouching by her legs like a puppy waiting for praise. Jessica closed her eyes, a faint smile touching her lips before she quickly suppressed it. It's okay, I guess. But don't think one cushion absolves you of the crime of hiding money from me. Yes, you're absolutely right, my queen, I said, shooting a look at Chloe. Chloe, understanding her cue perfectly, threw herself into Jessica's arms. Mommy, Daddy didn't have enough money to buy me an Iron Man toy because he bought this for you. He's so poor now. Jessica stroked our daughter's hair, and when she looked at me again, her eyes were softer with a hint of guilt. All right, stop with the sob story. She took out her phone. I'm sending you $50. Make it last. You got it. Thanks, boss, I said, happily accepting the Venmo. Compared to the $250 I'd lost, $50 was a drop in the bucket. But hey, money was money. The great other woman crisis of the year was finally, narrowly, averted. But I knew this was just a temporary ceasefire. In this house, the war of wits between Jessica and me was just getting started. The joy of having $50 didn't last long. I was about to face a major life challenge. On Friday evening, Chloe came home from kindergarten, and before her backpack even hit the floor, she pulled out a brightly colored flyer and slapped it onto my stomach. Daddy, the teacher said we have to bring a craft project to school on Monday, and we have to make it with our parents. I picked up the paper. It read, to foster your child's creativity and strengthen family bonds, we ask parents to assist their child in creating a robot using recycled materials. A robot. My eyes lit up. This was my time to shine. Back in college, Ethan Miller, was a legend in the model-making club. They called me the Plastic Picasso. Jess, I yelled toward the bedroom. I volunteer for this glorious and difficult mission. You just keep being beautiful, and I'll lead our daughter to kindergarten domination. Jessica emerged, a sheet mask on her face, and gave me a skeptical look. Ethan, take it easy. Don't make something ridiculous. Last year they asked for a lantern, and you built one with a strobe light that nearly blinded the teacher. Don't worry. This time I'm going for an understated luxury tech vibe. For the next 2 days, our apartment became a robotics factory. I unearthed all my empty soda cans, an old computer mouse, a broken graphics card fan, and one of Chloe's light-up yo-yos. Daddy, will this robot shoot lasers? Chloe asked, squatting beside me, in charge of handing me the screwdriver. Lasers are for amateurs, I said, holding a soldering iron, my safety goggles reflecting the light of pure genius. Daddy is going to build you a fully articulated, cyberpunk-style wasteland warrior. Jessica walked past a few times, watching with a pained expression as I disassembled a perfectly good hairdryer to use as a jetpack thruster. She said nothing, finally just shaking her head and tossing a you break it, you buy it over her shoulder. After 48 hours of intense labor, the masterpiece was complete. It was about 2 feet tall, a metallic monster covered in circuit boards and sliced-up aluminum cans. Its eyes were 2 red LEDs, the PC fan was mounted in its chest, and the hairdryer thruster was strapped to its back. The best part? I'd installed a Bluetooth module so I could control its clumsy walking with my phone and make it blast Uptown Funk. Monday morning, the kindergarten drop-off line. The other kids were holding robots made of cardboard boxes and plastic bottles. And then there was Chloe, pushing my wasteland warrior like it was the Terminator arriving from the future. Whoa, Chloe, what is that? It's so cool. A crowd of little kids immediately swarmed her. Chloe's ego inflated to the size of a Thanksgiving Day parade balloon. She puffed out her little chest and announced proudly, "My daddy made it. It's a super robot." Just then, Jessica, on her way to work after dropping Chloe off, saw the scene and couldn't help but smile. She walked over and nudged me with her elbow. "Not bad, Ethan. You actually made her look cool." I raised an eyebrow smugly. Of course, my technical skills are. My sentence was cut short by disaster. Chloe, wanting to show off its features, pressed the big red button on the robot's chest. That was the button I had designated as Berserker mode. The robot's lights suddenly began to flash red. The hairdryer on its back roared to life with a WHIRR, and while it didn't shoot flames, the powerful gust of air it produced was enough to blow up the skirt of a little girl standing nearby. Simultaneously, the robot began to shake violently, and a pre-recorded line of dialogue boomed from its speaker at maximum volume. Tremble mortals! I, Ethan Miller, am king of the world. Moi ha! Dead silence. The teacher froze. The parents froze. Jessica's smile was frozen on her face, slowly cracking like thin ice. She turned her head, her eyes holding not murder, but a deep, profound desire to legally disown me on the spot. Ethan, she hissed through gritted teeth. Did you want the entire world to know you're a giant man-child? I frantically fumbled for my phone to shut it down, but in my panic I hit the wrong button. The robot switched audio tracks and began blaring. This hit, that ice cold, Michelle Pfeiffer, that white gold. To the beat of the music, the robot began to spin and twitch uncontrollably. Chloe stared at her berserk creation, her expression turning from awe to terror, and then she burst into tears. Daddy's monster is going to eat everyone. That morning, I fled the kindergarten with my face in my hands. Before getting in her car, Jessica left me with one final command. When you get home tonight, I want that thing dismantled into 1,000,000 pieces. And I'm docking your allowance $300 this month for my emotional distress. After the kindergarten incident, I kept a low profile for a few days. But the peace was soon shattered because Jessica decided she was fat. It started when she tried on a dress from last year and the zipper got stuck. From my observation, it was purely because she was wearing a thick thermal shirt underneath, but logic has no place in a woman's discussion about her weight. Ethan Miller, starting today, this entire family is on a diet. Jessica, standing on the digital scale, issued her supreme directive. What? I was halfway through a watermelon, scooping it out with a spoon, and nearly choked. Babe, you're not fat, you're curvy. It's a sign of prosperity. Besides, Chloe and I are growing bodies. Jessica interrupted coldly. Cut the crap, Jessica interrupted coldly. I looked it up. If you don't get rid of that beer belly, you'll have high blood pressure before you're 40. And Chloe's been eating too much junk. For the health of this family, greasy dinners are canceled. We're eating clean. And so, our dining table turned into a rabbit hutch. Steamed broccoli, raw cucumber sticks, and boiled chicken breast that had the texture of shoe leather. On the first day, Chloe stared at the sea of green in her bowl, tears welling up in her eyes. Daddy, did we go bankrupt? Why are we eating grass? I chewed a piece of broccoli with the enthusiasm of a condemned man. Honey, this is called healthy. If you eat it, you can become a fluffy little sheep. I don't want to be a sheep. I want to be the big bad wolf. The wolf eats the sheep. By the third day, I felt like I was floating when I walked. I saw Mrs. Peterson's poodle in the hallway and found myself thinking it looked plump and delicious. This couldn't go on. While Jessica was working late, I decided to take a risk. I secretly ordered 2 deluxe bacon cheeseburgers with extra fries, with a special note. No onions or pickles. Need to avoid leaving evidence. As soon as the delivery arrived, Chloe and I descended on it like a pack of wolves, hiding in the kitchen with a range hood on full blast, gobbling it down. Daddy, this is so good, Chloe mumbled, her face covered in ketchup, tears of joy in her eyes. Eat fast, don't smack your lips, I whispered, shoveling fries into my mouth while keeping an ear out for any sound from the front door. Just as we were hitting our stride, we heard the lock turn. Crap! I panicked. Jessica was home early. Retreat. Emergency retreat. I snatched the half-eaten burger from Chloe's hands, shoved it and the takeout containers into the oven, and started frantically wiping her face with a wet wipe. If Mommy asks, we were eating. Tomatoes. Jessica walked in, her nose twitching. What's that smell? She asked, looking suspiciously at the two of us. Chloe and I stood side by side in the kitchen doorway, our hands behind our backs, our faces frozen. Smell? What smell? I laughed nervously. Must be the neighbors cooking. So inconsiderate, making delicious-smelling food this late at night. Jessica narrowed her eyes, walked right up to me, and sniffed near my mouth. I held my breath, my heart pounding. Then she turned to Chloe. Chloe had her mouth clamped shut, her cheeks puffed out, clearly hiding a mouthful of unswallowed burger. "Chloe, open your mouth," Jessica said gently. Chloe shook her head violently. "If you don't open your mouth, we're not going to the amusement park this weekend." The moment she heard that, Chloe's mouth popped open, and there it was, a glistening, perfectly cooked piece of bacon, sitting right on her tongue. Game over. I closed my eyes in despair, bracing for the storm, but the yelling I expected never came. I opened my eyes and saw Jessica staring at that piece of bacon, her throat making a suspicious, swallowing motion. And in her eyes, I saw not rage, but longing. After days of eating grass, she was clearly at her breaking point, too. "Is there any more?" she asked suddenly, her voice low. "Huh." I was stunned. I said, "Is there any more?" She glared at me. "Where is it? Get it out." I shakily pointed at the oven. 5 minutes later, the three of us were sitting on the kitchen floor. Jessica, all pretense of hygiene gone, was holding my half-eaten burger and devouring it like a starved animal. "So good," she sighed. "This is what human beings are supposed to eat." I watched her, a smudge of ketchup at the corner of her mouth, and suddenly thought that this normally fierce and formidable woman was actually kind of cute. "Babe, you're really not fat," I said, leaning over and daring to pinch her cheek. "This is called collagen. People pay good money for injections of this stuff." Jessica rolled her eyes at me, then shoved the last piece of bacon into my mouth. "After this, we're back on the diet tomorrow." "What? Still? Duh. Today was a cheat meal." "Ever heard of it? It's scientific." Chewing on the bacon, looking at this woman and her glorious double standards, I had only one thought. Cheat meals are delicious. I hope I get cheated on every single day. Lately, I'd noticed something was off with Jessica. The frequency with which she came home and giggled at her phone had increased dramatically, and a new name kept popping up in her conversations. Peter. "Peter says this color would really complement my skin tone." Peter's outfit today was so on trend. Peter invited me to try a new salon experience this weekend. As the reigning husband, I was getting nervous. Peter? Sounds like some slick, international type. The kind of guy who wears too much cologne and peppers his sentences with French phrases. On Saturday morning, Jessica spent an hour getting ready. She put on perfume and a shade of lipstick that could only be described as man-killer red. "I'm heading out. Won't be back for lunch," she said, pressing her lips together in the mirror. "Where to? Seeing this Peter guy?" I asked, trying to sound casual as I slowly crushed the TV remote in my hand. "Yep, we have a 10 o'clock, Jessica said, in far too good a mood to notice the vat of acid churning in my stomach. "I'll drive you." I shot to my feet. I could take Chloe out for a drive anyway. And I can. Meet this Peter. Thank him for taking such good care of my wife." Jessica paused, giving me a knowing, amused look. "All right, let's all go then." The entire drive, I played out 1,000 scenarios in my head. I would use my mature, masculine charm to engage in a silent battle of wits with this pretty boy. I would make him understand that Jessica was very much off the market. The car pulled up in front of a lavishly decorated storefront. The sign read, "Adore Salon, a bespoke styling experience." I was dumbfounded. A hair salon? We walked in, and a man in skinny jeans and bleached blonde hair, holding a pair of scissors, greeted us with an elegantly crooked pinky finger. "Jessica, darling, you made it. Peter has been waiting ages for you." This was Peter? I looked at the man, who sounded more like one of Jessica's girlfriends than a rival, and the tension in my shoulders instantly evaporated. I almost laughed out loud. "So this is Peter the stylist," I said, putting extra emphasis on the stylist. "Oh my, and this must be the husband. So handsome. No wonder Jessica's always talking about you." Peter looked me up and down. "But honey, that haircut is a little dated. If you let me at it, I could make you look 10 years younger." Jessica was trying not to laugh beside me. She nudged me with her elbow. "So, what do you think of my date? Satisfied?" I cleared my throat and rubbed my nose awkwardly. "Well, I was just concerned about your aesthetic choices." To be honest, I was still a little annoyed. Even if this Peter wasn't a threat, I didn't like watching his hands all over my wife's head. It was just wrong. "Babe, I don't think you need to color or perm your hair," I said suddenly, with a look of utmost sincerity. "Your hair looks best just like this, long and straight. It's classic, innocent. Coloring it would just make it look cheap." Peter was not pleased. Oh no, sir, that's such a typical straight guy opinion. This year is all about smoky lavender. It's so sophisticated. Smoky lavender? I pointed out the window at the gray, hazy sky. You mean the color of smog? No, no, that's terrible luck. Jessica finally burst out laughing, but still shot me a look. Ethan, shut up. I'm paying to look beautiful, not for a lesson in feng shui. In the end, she got her hair done, but thanks to my strong suggestions, constant meddling, Peter didn't dare try any smoky lavender. He just gave her a simple trim and a deep conditioning treatment. On the way home, Jessica kept checking her reflection in the mirror. Ethan, were you jealous today? She asked out of the blue. What? Don't be ridiculous. Me, jealous of a guy who wields a pair of scissors for a living. I said, my pride refusing to admit defeat. I was worried he was going to pressure you into buying some expensive membership package. Those guys are sharks. Jessica turned her head and looked at me, her eyes sparkling. You're a terrible liar, she said, reaching over and gently pinching my ear. But it was kind of sweet. Don't worry. I've already got one big goofy dog at home. I don't have the energy for another pet. I blinked, then it hit me. Hey, who are you calling a dog? Woof. I mean, hey, that's rude. If Jessica was my immediate supervisor, then my mother-in-law was the CEO of the entire corporation, wielding absolute power from a remote location, making her all the more terrifying. On Sunday morning, I was sprawled on the sofa in my boxer shorts, deep in a mobile game, when Jessica sounded the battle alarm. Quick, get up. My mom is video calling. I jolted upright, nearly dropping the phone on my face. My mother-in-law was under the impression that I was a freelancer with a lack of ambition, which, to be fair, was true. So for every video call, I had to transform into a successful family man balancing work and life. Shirt, I scrambled, pulling a button down from under the sofa cushion and hastily throwing it on, missing half the buttons. Glasses. They make you look smarter. Jessica jammed my blue light-blocking glasses onto my face and quickly tried to smooth down my disastrous bedhead. Ready? Jessica took a deep breath and hit the accept button. My mother-in-law's stern face appeared on the screen. Mom, so good to see you. You look great. I beamed, showing off all 8 of my front teeth. My top half looked professional and crisp. My bottom half was still wearing bright red boxer shorts. Ethan, not out schmoozing clients on a weekend? She asked, adjusting her reading glasses. Nope. Turned down a couple of business dinners. Decided to stay home with Jessica and the kid. You can never earn enough money, but family comes first, you know? I said smoothly. Jessica rolled her eyes beside me. A good sentiment, my mother-in-law said with a nod of approval. Where's Chloe? Let me see my granddaughter. Chloe, Grandma's on the phone. Chloe ran over with a toy and squeezed into the frame. Grandma, I miss your dumplings. Oh, my sweet girl. Grandma will come visit soon, she cooed, her face breaking into a smile. Then she asked casually, Chloe, what did Daddy do today? My stomach dropped. This was a trap. I frantically made faces at Chloe, tried to signal her, say Daddy was working, say Daddy was reading, say Daddy was doing chores. Chloe looked at me, then at the screen, and said with the pure, unfiltered honesty of a child, Daddy was fighting monsters today. He was lying on the sofa, wiggling his butt, and yelling bad words. It was over. The air solidified. My mother-in-law's smile vanished. Jessica put her head in her hands. Ahem. Mom, let me explain. My brain went into overdrive. That's for a new game development project I'm on. I was testing. Yes, doing user experience testing. The butt wiggling was to test the motion control functionality. My mother-in-law was silent for a few seconds, then let out a long sigh. Ethan, work is important, but you need to maintain a professional image, especially in front of the child. Try to wiggle your but a little less. Yes, absolutely. You're right, Mom, I said, nodding like a bobblehead. As soon as the call ended, I collapsed on the sofa, my back soaked with sweat. Jessica kicked my shin, a smirk on her face. Testing motion control functionality? Ethan, you should be writing fiction. You're wasting your talent. I grabbed her ankle, pulling her foot closer and rubbing my cheek against it like a cat. Babe, I do it all for the peace and stability of this family. Look how happy your mom was, thinking her son-in-law is both hardworking and a devoted family man. Jessica blushed and tried to pull her foot away, but didn't put much effort into it. Get off. You're all greasy, she grumbled, but her hand gently ruffled my hair. But next time you video call my mother in red boxer shorts, I will break both your legs. On a weekend night, Jessica had a company dinner. She rarely drank, but when she came home, she was clearly wasted. One of her coworkers had to help her to the door. Her face was bright red, her eyes unfocused. Thanks so much. I appreciate it, I said politely to her coworker before closing the door. I turned around to see Jessica, having kicked off her shoes, standing barefoot in the entryway, grinning at me like an idiot. Ethan. She tilted her head and poked my chest. Why do you have two heads? I'm a mythological creature. It's a whole thing, I sighed, scooping her up into my arms. How does this powerful, sophisticated woman turn into a carbon copy of Chloe when she's drunk? I deposited her on the bed and went to get her a glass of water. When I came back, she was hugging my pillow and muttering to herself. Here, drink some water, I said, helping her sit up. Jessica obediently took a few sips, then suddenly threw her arms around my neck and buried her face in my chest, nuzzling me like a kitten. Ethan. Her voice was soft and muffled. You know what? I saw Mr. Henderson's husband today. Drives a Porsche, wears a gold watch. So rich. A pang of insecurity hit me. Getting tired of being with a poor guy? I asked, patting her back and trying to sound casual. Don't worry. When I win the lottery next week, I'll buy you a Maserati. Don't want one. Jessica shook her head, hugging me tighter. He was so ugly and bald. Not handsome like you. I chuckled. Well, that's true. With these looks, I was basically a campus celebrity back in the day. And Jessica looked up, her eyes watery. He didn't seem fun at all. I bet he wouldn't build his kid a crazy robot, or sneak eat my snacks, or make me laugh when I'm sad. My heart skipped a beat. This silly woman. So she knew. She knew that sometimes I acted like an idiot just to cheer her up. She knew that all the ridiculous things I did were just my way of keeping our little world from getting too quiet. Babe, I said softly. You look really beautiful tonight. Jessica giggled, then leaned in and gave me a quick, clumsy kiss on the lips. You too. And with that, her head lolled to the side, and she was out cold. I looked at her peaceful, sleeping face and smiled. I pulled the covers over her and dimmed the bedside lamp. As I walked out of the bedroom, I saw Chloe peeking around the doorframe, blinking owlishly. Daddy, what's wrong with Mommy? Mommy got tired and turned back into a little kid, I said, picking her up. Tonight, Daddy will sleep with you and tell you a story. Yay. I want to hear about Iron Man fighting monsters. You got it. Tonight's story is about how Iron Man defeated the alcohol monster and saved the beautiful princess. The night felt soft and quiet. We might not have a Porsche or a gold watch, but with these two troublemakers, my one big and one small, I figured life was pretty damn good. On Tuesday morning, I woke up feeling like I had swallowed a handful of broken glass. My head was light, my body heavy. I felt like I was floating. I touched my forehead. Hot. Definitely hot. I had to have a fever of at least 104. Jessica was at her vanity putting on makeup. She glanced at my corpse-like form in the mirror, her hand not even pausing as she applied her lipstick. Ethan, it's 7:30. If Chloe is late for school, you're not touching your game console today. Jess. I let out a pathetic groan. My voice is raspy as a rusty hinge. I don't think I'm going to make it. I can see a bright light. My great-grandma is waving at me. Jessica's hand paused. She spun around, walked to the bed, and looked down at me. She placed the back of her hand on my forehead. You don't have a fever, she diagnosed coldly. Stop faking. Get up and make breakfast. It's an internal fever. My organs are on fire. I grabbed her wrist, refusing to let go, giving her the most soulful, desperate look I could muster. Jess, if I go, find a good man and remarry. But remember, don't marry a gamer. Those guys are unreliable. And the skins in my account, leave them for our future son-in-law. It could be a family heirloom. Jessica rolled her eyes, yanked her hand away, and rummaged in her drawer for the digital thermometer. Beep. She shoved the thermometer in my face. 99 degrees, she said with a sneer. This is what has you seeing your great-grandma. Does she live on a radiator? I looked at the number, completely unfazed. A low-grade fever. Those are the worst. It's a sign that the body's entire immune system is on the verge of a total collapse. Just then, Chloe ran in, backpack on. She was wearing a yellow raincoat and looked like a little duck. "Daddy, why aren't you up yet? The teacher says we'll get a timeout if we're late." "Chloe." I reached out a trembling hand. "Daddy is sick. Daddy might not be able to take you to school. You have to be strong." Chloe blinked, stared at me for 3 seconds, then threw her backpack on the floor and ran out of the room. A moment later, she returned, dragging her pink toy doctor's kit. "I am Doctor. Chloe, I'm here to make Daddy all better." She pulled a giant plastic syringe from the kit, its spring making a loud, sprowing sound. "Daddy, pull down your pants. 1 shot, and you'll be all better," Chloe announced excitedly, aiming the giant needle at my rear end. "Whoa, no, don't." I sprang out of bed like an Olympic gymnast, my movements fluid and powerful. I think I feel much better now. The power of love is truly amazing. I feel so strong all of a sudden. Jessica leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a smirk on her face. "Oh, done visiting with great-grandma." "All done," I said, quickly pulling on my pants. She said I have unfinished business on this mortal plane and that I needed to get back and take my daughter to school. Even though I wasn't running a high fever, the cold was real. After dropping Chloe off, I felt completely drained. Jessica hadn't gone to work. She was in the kitchen, making soup. I lay on the sofa, wrapped in a blanket, sniffling, watching her busy figure, and a warmth spread through my chest. The woman had a bark worse than her bite. Deep down, she cared. "Babe," I called out. "What?" she said, not turning around. "I want canned peaches," I said, making the official request of a sick person. When I was a kid and had a fever, my mom always gave me canned peaches. I always felt better right away. "We don't have any. Canned pears will be fine, too." "Don't have those either." "Then could you just give me a glass of warm water? Like 113 degrees so it doesn't burn my mouth." Jessica walked out with a bowl of soup and placed it heavily on the coffee table. "Ethan, you have a cold. You're not paralyzed." Despite her words, she turned and poured me a glass of water, handing it to me. "Drink this, then take your medicine." I held the warm glass and, using my sickness as an excuse, boldly rested my head on her hip. "Babe, you're the best," I murmured, rubbing my cheek against her soft sweatpants. "If it weren't for you, I'd probably be a goner by now." Jessica's body stiffened for a second, but she didn't push me away. Her hand hesitated, then gently rested on my forehead. "You do feel a little warm," she muttered. "What do you want for dinner tonight? I can go to the store." "Ribs. Barbecue ribs." I immediately listed my demands. "And Coke canned chicken." Jessica flicked my forehead. "In your dreams. Sick people get soup. I'll make you a nice chicken and vegetable soup tonight." I rubbed my head and watched her grab her purse to go shopping, a huge grin spreading across my face. Chicken and vegetable soup sounded just fine. As long as she was the one making it, I'd drink poison. A few days after my cold, a new crisis descended upon our home. Chloe was in her last year of preschool, which meant she was beginning to encounter the sacred and terrifying subject of math. After dinner, Jessica slapped a kindergarten math readiness workbook on the table and gave me a grave look. "Ethan, you're on homework duty tonight." She rubbed her temples. "Yesterday, I tried to teach her how to write the number 8. She drew 2 circles on top of each other and asked me why the snowman didn't have a nose. If I have to teach her again tonight, I'm afraid I'll try to stuff her back where she came from." What's the big deal? I took the workbook confidently. I was the captain of the math team in high school. Teaching addition and subtraction under 10? That's child's play. 10 minutes later, I was perched on a tiny stool, my tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, clutching a pencil in a white-knuckled grip. My blood pressure was rising at an alarming rate. "Chloe," I said, taking a deep breath and forcing a smile. "Let's try this again. You have 5 apples. Daddy eats 3 of them. How many apples do you have left?" Chloe chewed on the end of her pencil, her brow furrowed, as if she were contemplating the fate of the universe. "Why would Daddy eat my apples?" she suddenly asked, her gaze sharp. "Is Daddy a piggy? Eating 3 apples at once?" I choked on my own saliva. "That's not the point. The point is how many are left." I tapped the table. "It's a hypothetical. Do you understand hypothetical?" "Oh." Chloe nodded, then held up her chubby little hand and started counting on her fingers. 1, 2, 3. She bent all 5 fingers down into a fist, stared at it, and fell into deep thought. They're all gone, she concluded. How can they be all gone? I was losing my mind. 5 minus 3. Try again. Chloe looked at my contorted face. Her lower lip began to tremble, and her eyes instantly filled with tears. Daddy's yelling at me. She whimpered. You ate all my apples, and now you're yelling at me. I immediately surrendered. Not yelling. Not yelling. This is passionate instruction. Okay, let's try something else. No more apples. I ran to the kitchen and came back with 5 eggs, placing them on the table. Look, 5 eggs. I took 2 away. 2 of them broke. How many are left? Chloe stared at the eggs, her eyes glazed over. Come on, how many are left? Daddy, can we have scrambled eggs for a snack? My vision went black. I nearly fell off the stool. This wasn't teaching. This was a trial by fire. Jess, help! I screamed toward the bedroom. This child's brain has been hijacked by aliens. I can't communicate with her. Jessica walked out, a face mask on, looking serene. Move, she said, kicking my stool gently. I scrambled out of the way as if pardoned from death row, collapsed on the sofa, and prepared to watch Jessica have her own breakdown. Jessica sat down, picked up the eggs, and looked at Chloe. Chloe, do you like Princess Elsa? She asked gently. I love her. Chloe's eyes lit up. Princess Elsa has 5 magic ice crystals, Jessica said, pointing at the eggs. Anna borrowed 3 of them. How many does Elsa have left? 2, Chloe blurted out, without even using her fingers. I was speechless on the sofa. What kind of sorcery was this? A blatant double standard? See, Jessica glanced back at me. You have to use a language they understand. Your whole apple and egg routine is so old-fashioned. But math is about logic. You can't bring celebrity worship into it. I protested. Jessica sneered. Logic? You want to bet I can have Princess Elsa confiscate your allowance? I immediately shut up and turned to face the back of the sofa. In this house, Princess Elsa was the supreme authority. I ranked somewhere below the 5 eggs. To reclaim the dignity I'd lost in the field of parenting, and to support Jessica's new family fitness initiative, I was forced to join her evening yoga sessions. 2 yoga mats were laid out side by side in the living room. Jessica was wearing a form-fitting lavender yoga outfit, her hair in a high bun, her curves on full display. I snuck a few glances, my throat suddenly dry. We'd been married for years, but she could still knock the wind out of me. Then there was me, in baggy shorts and a tank top, looking like some old guy on his way to walk the dog. Tonight, we're doing partner yoga, Jessica announced, pulling up a tutorial on the TV. It's supposed to improve spousal harmony and increase flexibility. Flexibility? I patted my stiff lower back. Babe, my bones are pretty much set in their ways. If we stretch them any further, they might snap. Less talking, more stretching. First pose, sit back to back and link arms. I dutifully sat down, my back pressing against hers. She smelled faintly of her lavender body wash, and the warmth of her body seeped through her thin shirt, making my mind wander. Focus. Jessica slapped my hand. Deep breaths. Inhale. Exhale. The next 10 minutes were a special kind of hell. My legs were twisted into pretzels, my arms into ropes. I yelped and groaned like a pig at slaughter, but Jessica remained perfectly calm, occasionally sighing about how inflexible I was. Last pose. Airplane. Jessica pointed at the TV. You lie down, and I'll balance on your feet. You lift me up. What? I stared at the ridiculously complex pose on the screen. That's not yoga. That's Cirque du Soleil. Babe, we don't have that kind of health insurance. If I drop you, trust me, and trust yourself, she said, her eyes full of confidence. Gritting my teeth, I lay down and raised my legs. Jessica grabbed my hands, positioning her stomach over the soles of my feet. Lift, she commanded. I clenched my jaw, tightened my leg muscles, and pushed upwards with all my might. And it actually worked. Jessica was suspended in the air like a bird, her arms outstretched, looking down at me. Her cheeks were flushed, there were tiny beads of sweat on her forehead, and her eyes were sparkling. She was breathtaking. Ethan Miller, you're stronger than you look, she said with a laugh. The unexpected compliment went straight to my head. I got cocky and tried to show off. Of course, my leg strength is... I didn't finish the sentence. My leg gave out. A cramp. The balance was gone. Jessica lost her support and came crashing straight down. Thud! I became a human mattress. Jessica was sprawled on top of me, her face buried in the crook of my neck. Our position was extremely intimate. I could feel her ragged breath against my collarbone, the soft pressure of her chest against mine. Time seemed to stop. I didn't dare move. I didn't want to move. Jessica didn't seem to be in any hurry to get up, either. Are you okay? She asked, her voice muffled and a little hoarse. Yeah, I said, my own throat feeling tight. You're surprisingly soft. Jessica lifted her head, her face the color of a ripe tomato. She glared at me and placed her hands on my chest to push herself up. Just then, the bedroom door opened. Chloe, on her way to the bathroom, stood there rubbing her sleepy eyes, staring at the two people tangled up on the living room floor. Daddy? Mommy? Are you guys wrestling? Jessica shot up as if electrocuted, frantically smoothing down her clothes. No, not wrestling. We're, exercising. Yeah, exercising. I lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling, still feeling the warmth of her body on mine, and broke into a goofy grin. This yoga thing was definitely worth it. On Friday night, the power went out in our entire apartment complex. In the pitch-black darkness, Chloe started cheering, thinking it was some new kind of game. I fumbled around and found a few scented candles, the ones Jessica had bought for ambience that I never let her light for fear of burning the place down. Tonight, they were finally useful. The flickering candlelight made the living room feel surprisingly romantic. Well, since there's no TV and no internet, how about a candlelit dinner? I suggested. With what? Jessica peered into the fridge with the help of the candle. The stove is electric, the microwave is out. All we have are a few packs of instant ramen and some hot dogs. Perfect. I snapped my fingers. Behold, I shall prepare for you a gourmet dish of ramen a la Frankfurter. I set up our little camping stove, its blue flame glowing in the dark. I theatrically sliced the hot dogs into heart shapes and tossed them into the pot. When the ramen was cooked, I didn't use bowls. Instead, I found 2 large dinner plates, carefully twirled the noodles into a neat pile, drizzled the seasoning packet over them, and artfully arranged the hot dog hearts on top. Madam, I said, pulling out a chair with a flourish. Jessica looked at the steaming pile of instant ramen on her plate and, for once, didn't laugh at me. Ethan Miller, if you applied this much ceremony to your career, you'd be a millionaire by now. Money isn't as important as you. I opened a can of Coke and poured it into 2 wine glasses. Cheers! Chloe was already sitting on the rug, happily slurping down her portion, a ring of broth around her mouth, completely ignoring us. Across the table, the candlelight danced on Jessica's face. She wasn't wearing any makeup, her hair was down, and her eyes looked incredibly soft in the warm glow. Ethan, she said suddenly. Yeah. How long have we been married? 7 years, I answered instantly. Why? Feeling the 7-year itch? Thinking of trading me in? Jessica shook her head, swirling the Coke in her wine glass. No, it's just, time has gone by so fast. When I first met you, you were skinnier and you had that ridiculous emo haircut. You did not look like a good person. Hey, that was a fashionable look. I protested. Right. Fashionable, she said with a smile, reaching across the table and taking my hand. Who would have thought I'd end up marrying that emo kid and having a little emo kid of my own? I squeezed her hand, tracing the lines on her palm with my thumb. Do you regret it? I asked. It was a question I'd never really dared to ask. Her college friends had all married well. Some moved abroad, some married into wealthy families. With me, she'd never gone hungry, but she certainly wasn't living a life of luxury. Jessica looked at me, silent for a few moments. Sometimes I do, she said, her tone teasing, especially when you leave your socks on the floor, or yell at your video games, or help our daughter destroy the house. In those moments, I really want to throw you out. My heart sank, but a small smile played on her lips. When the power goes out, the only person who would make me such a delicious bowl of instant ramen is probably you. I let out a breath. I didn't realize I was holding a warm, fuzzy feeling spreading through my chest. Of course, it's my secret recipe. Daddy, more. Chloe held up her empty plate, breaking the tender moment. I want more hot dogs. Eat, that's all you do. I laughed, getting up. Hang on, Daddy will cut you a star-shaped one this time. The candlelight flickered, casting the shadows of our little family onto the wall, long and intertwined. The big weekend cleanup was a sacred tradition in our house, and the event I dreaded most. Because a deep clean meant one thing: a full, no-holds-barred search of all my hiding spots. I was diligently wiping down the windows when I heard a shriek of delight from the bedroom. "Mommy, I found a treasure box." The rag in my hand fell to the floor. A treasure box? In the bedroom? Under the bed? Oh no, that wasn't a treasure box. That was my Pandora's box. It didn't contain secret money. It contained something far, far worse. By the time I sprinted into the bedroom, it was too late. Jessica was sitting cross-legged on the floor, holding the dusty old tin box. The lid was already open. Chloe was peering over her shoulder, her eyes wide with excitement. "What is this?" Jessica asked, pulling out a faded photograph. In the photo, I was wearing skin-tight leather pants, my hair spiked up like a porcupine, a heavy chain around my neck. I was striking what I clearly thought was a very cool pose in front of a row of computers at a LAN gaming center. Jessica couldn't hold it in. She burst out laughing. "Don't look. Don't look." I lunged for it, but she deftly dodged me. "Who's that?" Chloe pointed at the picture, her face a mask of horror. "Is he a bad guy?" "That's your father," Jessica said, laughing so hard tears were streaming down her face. That was from his glorious emo phase. Next, she pulled out a notebook. The color drained from my face. That was my college poetry journal, and most of the poems were written for a goddess character in a video game, though I'd never had the courage to post them. An ode to my lost youth and virtual love. Jessica read the incredibly cringy title from the cover. "Don't read it. I'm begging you. Jess, have mercy. Leave me with some shred of dignity." I pleaded, dropping to my knees. Ignoring my cries, Jessica flipped to the first page and began to recite with dramatic flair. "Oh, Queen of the Frozen Throne, your gaze, like a 1,000-year-old glacier, has frozen my burning heart. I would be but a humble skeleton warrior at your feet, fighting for you until my last drop of ectoplasm." The room filled with joyous laughter. Chloe didn't understand a word, but seeing her mom laugh, she started laughing too, clapping her hands. "Daddy's a skeleton. Daddy's a skeleton." I buried my face in a sofa cushion, feeling my soul leave my body. When Jessica had laughed her fill, she flipped to the very last page. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. I paused, lifting my head. She was staring at the last page, her expression strange. That page wasn't written for a game character. It was written for her. I'd written it right after we started dating, but I'd been too embarrassed by how cheesy it was to ever show her. I don't know what the future holds. I don't have epic gear, and I'm not a max-level character. But if real life is a game, Jessica, you're the only NPC I ever want to protect. No, you're my main quest. Time limit, a lifetime. Jessica stared at the messy handwriting, her fingers gently tracing the words on the page. "Idiot," she whispered, but there was no mockery in her voice, only tenderness. She closed the notebook, placed it back in a box, and looked at me, the corners of her eyes a little red. "That's a pretty high-level main quest. You sure you have what it takes to complete it?" I got up off the floor, dusted off my knees, and looked at her seriously. "Don't worry. I might not have a lot of good qualities, but I'm a grinder. And if I can't beat the game, I'll just cheat by spoiling you for the rest of your life." "You?" Chloe made a face from the sidelines. "Daddy's being gross." Jessica laughed through her tears and handed the box to me. "Keep this safe. When Chloe gets married, I'm bringing it out as part of her dowry. The whole wedding can appreciate your skeleton poetry." "Please don't." Sunlight streamed through the window, bathing us in a warm glow. Dust motes danced in the light, just like our crazy, chaotic, and somehow sparkling life. This weekend, our family faced its most formidable foe yet. Jessica's old college friend, supposedly the dream guy of every girl on campus, was back from a stint on Wall Street and had specifically asked to take Jessica to dinner to catch up. "Catch up," I muttered, pulling a sock onto Chloe's foot. "Catch up on what? How he failed calculus? Or which dining hall had the best pizza?" Jessica was trying on earrings, in an infuriatingly good mood, completely immune to the sarcasm dripping from my voice. "He's a partner at an investment firm now. What million? When you meet him later, please try not to embarrass me." "Me embarrass you?" I shot up, puffing out my chest. I, Ethan Miller, am a respected and very active member of our neighborhood HOA forum. People call me E-Dog. For this dinner, I insisted on bringing the family. I had to see this Wall Street hotshot for myself. The meeting spot was an outrageously expensive steakhouse. The guy, Julian Vance, was wearing a tailored suit, his hair so perfectly gelled the fly would slip and break its leg if it tried to land there. His every move screamed, "I am very, very rich." "Jessica, it's been too long." He stood up gracefully, completely ignoring me and extending a hand directly to my wife. Jessica beamed. "Julian, you haven't changed a bit." Holding Chloe, I wedged myself between them and grabbed Julian's hand, shaking it vigorously. "Great to meet you. I'm Jessica's legal husband, Ethan Miller. And this is the fruit of our love, Chloe Miller." I put extra emphasis on fruit of our love. Julian froze for a second, then plastered on a professional smile. "Mr. Miller, a pleasure. Jessica mentioned you were a freelancer." "That's right," I said proudly. "I specialize in domestic conflict resolution and early childhood emotional development. In short, a stay-at-home dad." A flicker of disdain crossed Julian's eyes. After we sat down, the performance began. He talked about the volatile world of Wall Street, the best vintages from French vineyards, peppering his speech with so many business buzzwords I started to doze off. Jessica, however, seemed fascinated, nodding along. I started cutting my steak, scraping the knife against the plate with a loud screech. "Daddy," Chloe whispered, tugging on my sleeve, "why does that man keep staring at Mommy? Is he going to steal her?" The voice of a child, loud and clear. The table went silent. I mentally gave my daughter a standing ovation. Julian cleared his throat awkwardly. "What a cute kid. Your mommy and I are just old friends from school." "Does being old friends mean you can stare at someone else's wife?" Chloe asked, her big eyes wide with a devastatingly logical question. "My teacher says that's not polite. You could get a timeout." Jessica's face turned bright red. She quickly stuffed a piece of bread in Chloe's mouth. "Eat your food. No more talking." To break the tension, Julian turned to me. "So, Mr. Miller, what are your hobbies?" "Oh, I have many," I said, putting down my silverware. "Video games, fixing leaky faucets, unclogging toilets, and making my wife happy. I'm a man of many talents." Julian chuckled. "Ow, down to earth. I've recently gotten into golf. We should play a round sometime." "Nah," I waved my hand. "Too slow for me. I prefer something more fast-paced. Like, say, King of Fighters 97. Best of 3. Loser has to call the winner daddy. You up for it, Julian?" The smile on Julian's face froze and then shattered. Under the table, Jessica stomped on my foot hard. I bit back a yelp and just smiled even wider. The dinner ended with Julian hastily paying the bill and making a swift exit. He had probably never encountered a man so completely immune to his brand of bull. On the way home, Jessica was quiet. My stomach churned. Maybe I'd gone too far. The moment we walked through the door, just as I was about to apologize, Jessica threw down her purse and wrapped her arms around me. "Ethan Miller," she said, her head buried in my shoulder, her body shaking. "I am sorry. I won't do it again," I said, immediately confessing. "Ha ha ha." She lifted her head, tears of laughter streaming down her face. "Did you see his face when you said King of Fighters? It turned green. It was so hilarious. I was trying not to laugh all night. I was stunned." "You're not mad?" "Mad about what?" Jessica pinched my cheek. "He was being a pretentious jerk all night. If I didn't have a business deal pending with his firm, I would have walked out. My husband is the best." You shut him down in 3 sentences. The massive weight on my chest lifted. I wrapped my arms around her waist. Of course, the only way to defeat that kind of magic is with your own, more powerful magic. To celebrate our victory over the enemy, I decided to take the family camping. I called it a return to nature. I bought a complete set of gear online. A tent, sleeping bags, a portable grill, and a very professional-looking multi-tool shovel. "We're not going to some lame, paid campsite," I said, spreading a map out and pointing to a patch of green. "We're going here, a wild lake. No people, total peace and quiet." Jessica looked at the remote, undeveloped area with skepticism. "Ethan, are you sure there aren't bears there?" "Don't worry. If there are, I'll just bonk them on the head with my shovel." On Saturday, after a 3-hour drive, we finally arrived. The scenery was beautiful. The lake was clear, the grass was tall, and aside from the swarms of mosquitoes, it was perfect. Time to pitch the tent, I declared. Unfortunately, the reality was much less glamorous than the fantasy. The tent, which was advertised as a 3-second, quick open model, took me half an hour of wrestling. I managed to get tangled up inside it 3 times, but it refused to stand up. "Daddy, are you practicing to be a contortionist?" Chloe asked, squatting nearby, generously feeding the local mosquito population. Finally, Jessica couldn't take it anymore. She shoved me aside, picked up the instruction manual, and had the thing up in 5 minutes. "Useless," she muttered. Humbled, I went to start the fire. "Dinner time. Barbecue," I announced, pulling out the charcoal, dousing it in lighter fluid, and striking a match. The flames shot up with a whoosh, making me jump back. But the fire died as quickly as it started. The lighter fluid burned off, leaving the charcoal as black and uncooperative as ever. I got on my hands and knees, stuck my face near the grill, and started blowing. I blew until I was dizzy and lightheaded, my face covered in soot, but the charcoal just sat there, stubbornly refusing to ignite. The sky began to darken. The sounds of unseen insects filled the air. Chloe clutched her stomach. "Daddy, I'm hungry." Almost there. Almost there," I said, sweat pouring down my face. This charcoal is a little damp. Just give me 10 more minutes." Jessica, sitting in a folding chair, turned on her phone's flashlight, illuminating my soot-streaked face. "Ethan, stop blowing. You're going to pass out." She sighed, then went to the back of the car and pulled out a bag. Good thing I came prepared. She opened the bag. Inside was a giant bucket of KFC. It was cold, but at that moment, it tasted like a 5-star meal. "Babe, you're a goddess." I lunged for it, grabbing a drumstick and tearing into it. That night, the 3 of us huddled in the tent, eating cold fried chicken by the faint light of a phone, listening to the wind howl outside. Chloe fell asleep between us, one of her little feet kicking me in the face. "Ethan," Jessica whispered, leaning her head on my shoulder. "Yeah, you're pretty useless, you know. You can't put up a tent, and you can't start a fire." Her voice was soft. "But thank you for bringing me out here. The stars are beautiful." I looked up through the mesh roof of the tent and saw a sky full of brilliant stars. "Don't mention it," I said, pulling her a little closer. "As long as you don't mind that I'm an idiot." "Oh, I definitely mind," she said with a yawn. "You're on dish duty for a month when we get back. As punishment." "Deal." Life has a way of throwing a grenade into your routine right when you think things are getting comfortable. For the past week, Jessica has been off. She's been exhausted, falling asleep the moment she gets home from work. And her temper has been on a hair trigger. Last night, she kicked me out of bed because my breathing was too loud. "Your exhaling is annoying me," was her official reason. As I huddled on the floor with my pillow, I had a genuine crisis of confidence. Had my lung capacity really become a form of noise pollution? This morning, I got up to use the bathroom and noticed a small pink box in the trash can. My eye twitched. I picked it up. It was the packaging for a pregnancy test. I dug a little deeper and found the test itself. 2 lines. One dark, one faint. My brain felt like it had been hit with a frying pan. "Pregnant. A second kid." I stood there, holding the little plastic stick, my hands shaking, my heart racing. A chaotic mix of terror, excitement, and overwhelming stress washed over me. I was going to be a dad again. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. Stubble, dark circles under my eyes. Raising Chloe had already pushed me to my absolute limit. Another one? My graphics card. My gaming time. My sleep. It was all over. But then, I imagined a miniature Jessica, or a miniature me, a little bundle calling me daddy. Hey, that actually sounded kind of cool. I took a deep breath, stuffed the test in my pocket, and burst into the bedroom. Jessica was still asleep, a small frown on her face. I crawled onto the bed, knelt beside her, and gently placed my hand on her flat stomach. "Babe," my voice trembled. Jessica's eyes fluttered open. She saw my pained, constipated expression and jumped. "What are you doing? Are you sleepwalking?" "You've worked so hard," I said, my eyes welling with tears. "So, what should we name this one? If it's a boy, how about Hank? A girl, maybe Bertha? Simple names are good luck." Jessica stared at me for 3 seconds, her gaze following mine down to her stomach, and then it clicked. "Ethan Miller," she shrieked, shoving me away. Were you digging through the trash? That's not the point. I grabbed her hand. The point is, we're having another one. Why didn't you tell me? Were you worried I'd be stressed? Don't be. Starting today, I'll quit smoking, drinking, and gaming. I'll deliver for DoorDash. I'll do construction. I swear I'll provide for you all. Jessica watched my frantic, rambling speech, and the anger on her face slowly melted away, replaced by an expression of amused resignation. You sure you want this? She asked. Yes. I nodded vigorously. We might be a little poorer, a little more tired, but having another person call me Dad? How cool is that? Jessica sighed and reached out to ruffle my messy hair. You're an idiot. Well, since you're so enthusiastic, I have a mission for you. What mission? Cater to the pregnant lady. She snuggled back under the covers. I am hungry. I want one of those cronets from that place downtown that has an hour-long line. Now. Immediately. Yes, ma'am. I leaped off the bed and gave her a salute. Mission accepted. As I ran out the door, the gray, overcast sky looked like it was sparkling with gold. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a dad again. Chloe's reaction to the news was the most dramatic. I don't want a baby brother, she declared, standing on the coffee table with her hands on her hips. He'll steal my toys. He'll eat my snacks. And he'll pee in my bed. My friend Leo said his baby brother is a demon. It could be a sister. I tried to placate her. A sister would be great. You could braid her hair, put her in dresses, and be her cool, big sister. Really? Chloe was wavering. Totally. She'll be your loyal sidekick. You'll be the queen of the house. Chloe's eyes lit up. From that day on, she transformed. She went from tiny chaos demon to tiny security guard. Jessica reached for a glass of ice water. No. Chloe charged over and snatched the glass away. Daddy said ice water will freeze the baby. Drink hot water. Jessica wanted to watch a scary movie. No. Chloe stood in front of the TV. What if you scare the baby? We have to watch SpongeBob. Jessica tried to eat a spicy chip. No. Chloe confiscated the chip and popped it in her own mouth. This is poison. I'll destroy it for you. Jessica didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She turned and glared at me. Ethan, did you teach her all this? I hid in the kitchen, cutting fruit, a silent hero. It's the bond of sisterhood. Just accept your fate. This is your daughter's love. That night, Jessica was lying in bed, her hand on her belly. Ethan, yeah. Who do you think the baby will be like? Like you, I hope, I said, massaging her legs. Smart, beautiful, classy like you. If he's like me, you'll go crazy with two idiots in a house. Jessica smiled. Being like you would be okay, she said softly. A little goofy, but a good heart, and you know how to take care of people. My hand paused. My nose started to tingle. That was probably the highest praise she'd given me in our entire marriage. Babe, when a new baby comes, I won't play favorites. You'll always be number one in this house. Chloe is number 2. The new one is number 3. And I'll be number 4, holding down the fort at the bottom. You wish, Jessica said, kicking me lightly. Turn off the light. Time for bed. 10 months later, outside the delivery room, I was once again experiencing the feeling of being an ant on a hot skillet. I had paced a trench in the hospital hallway. Chloe was sitting on a chair, clinging to my leg, being dragged back and forth with me. Daddy, stop shaking. You're making me dizzy. Daddy's nervous. Daddy's scared. My palms were soaked with sweat. Finally, the door opened. A nurse came out, holding a tiny, wrinkled creature. Family of Jessica Miller? Congratulations, it's a boy. 7 pounds, 6 ounces. A boy. I froze. Hank. I peered at him. The little guy's eyes were squeezed shut. His mouth was open in a silent roar, and his cry was loud and strong. He already sounded like he had a temper. We're doomed, I muttered. The house is officially a war zone now. When they wheeled Jessica out, she was pale but in good spirits. I rushed over and took her hand. 1,000 words were stuck in my throat. All I could manage was, babe, you completed the quest. You beat another final boss. Jessica gave me a weak smile. Shut up. The next expansion pack. You can play that one by yourself. A few days later, we were home. The apartment now featured a crib and was overflowing with diapers and cans of formula. Chloe stood on her tiptoes, peering into the crib and poking her brother's cheek. Daddy, he's so ugly. All newborns look like that. He'll get handsome later, I said, fumbling to mix a bottle of formula. What's his name? I looked at Jessica, sitting on the sofa like a queen, surveying her kingdom, then at the newest player who had just joined our game. Let's call him Leo, I said with a smile. Hopefully, our whole family could just keep laughing and being happy together. Jessica didn't object. She just said flatly, fine. It's about the level of creativity I expect from you. Night fell. The kids were asleep. Jessica and I stood on the balcony side by side, looking out at the city lights. Ethan Miller. Yeah. Thank you. For what? Thank you for playing this game called Life with me. Even though your skills are terrible, you have no game sense, and you're constantly feeding the enemy team. Playing on your team has been pretty fun. I wrapped my arm around her, resting my chin on the top of her head. Of course it is. As a support player, my specialty is being annoying, persistent, and never logging off. A cool breeze blew past, but it couldn't disperse the warmth that filled our little apartment. I knew that when the sun came up tomorrow, there would be more chaos, more diapers, and more of Jessica's yelling. But that was okay. This was my main quest. And